welcome back to the channel, man. Today we're gonna be picking back up on the Blazer. As you guys know, in the last video I mentioned I can't really do anything with the axle, and I'm still in that damn position. So we have this thing for the most part ready to go in, but I can't put it in until I actually assemble it. The axles have to go in. I have a mini spool. I've also got new axle bearings and seals that I need to put in. Actually, we could probably go ahead and do that, but it's not important right now. So for the most part, I can't put it in yet. I know I explained this already, but for those of you maybe you didn't see it, the axles that are on this, the lug pattern for the wheels, yeah, that's for a Ford Explorer, and this ain't no damn Ford Explorer, buddy. It's a Chevy Blazer with a real engine in it. Huh? So, with that being said, they make a drill guide is what they call it. It's a pretty dope ass little tool to actually convert from the 5x114, which this is, or 5x4.5, over to 5x120. Which is what the Blazer is. But I do not have the tool for doing that. So it is on its way here, but unfortunately it's not gonna be here until like Wednesday or Thursday, which is freaking days away. And I can't go that long without making a video, right? So there is a lot of other things that we need to do. You just looking. Yep, that's all there. Yep. All right. Bend it to knees. Bend it to knees. I'm gonna go ahead and just bolt this some bitch up in there, bro, because the brakes disconnected and the drive shaft and like all that stuff. It's really not that much of a process just to put it in there and take it back out. I need to figure out a few things, so may as well put it in there and then just take it back out to assemble it, you know what I'm saying? But before we do that, I need to grab those shocks out. So I don't think I've ever mentioned to you guys or shown you that this thing actually has air shocks on it. I don't even know if they work. So there's a line and it runs over the gas tank to that little valve right there where you can put some air in them. I've literally never even tried it. I kind of regret not trying it just to see, you know, if it actually goes like, but it is what it is. I'm gonna take them out because they're kind of in my way. Of course they're through bolted. Need a wrench. Anybody want some air shocks? So those are my old shocks, a set of AC Delco air shocks. These are gonna be the new shocks. I got a set for the rear and I got a set for the front. So these are actual drag racing shocks. That's pretty neat. Yes, sir. So
it's the Competition Engineering 3-way adjustable drag racing shock. Exactly how does your Competition Engineering 3-way adjustable drag shock work? Well, simply this. You're able to adjust the valving rate at which the shock compresses and extends.
These are $70 a corner, where most double adjustables are gonna run you about $200 to $300-ish per corner. So that's the reason why I got these. Hopefully in the future we can upgrade to a more baller shock setup. But for the time being, we're gonna make these work. These are gonna be a huge difference in comparison to that shit right there, you know what I'm saying? All right, got the rear end in place. I went ahead and I got the pins that are actually on the leaf springs into our leaf perches right there, and I clamped it on both sides. So with that thing clamped on there, the idea here is just kind of get a jack underneath the rear diff and jack it up slowly. The leaf spring should hold it kind of steady. That's what I'm freaking hoping here. Until we get the leaf spring up into the hanger, throw the bolts in. All right, so now with that thing sitting in there, dude, you could visually see a difference in this damn thing. That's a girthy ass son bitch. Anyhow, I got that cart out of there and I have the jack underneath the diff to support the weight. I'm hoping that now with the leaf springs bolted up, I can just take these clamps off without this thing trying to move on me. We finna find out the hard way. Huh? Oh, nice. We ain't out of the woods yet. God, oh my God, I have that one tight as shit. Ugh. Come on. Thank you. Nice. Son of a bitch didn't move at all. Alright, so I have two U-bolts here. This is the factory U-bolt that was on the S10 axle. So I just wanted to show you guys this really quick. As you can see, it won't even fit over that girthy ass thing. I've actually got the U-bolts from the Ford Explorer. Anyhow, my problem now, so these are the bottom plates that the U-bolts actually go through. I have a couple of options here. I did grab the ones from the Ford Explorer, which are these right here. These are the factory ones from the S10. So we're gonna run into the same issue, is the U-bolts are wider for the 8.8 rear end because it's a larger rear end. See, these U-bolts fit inside of these holes from the Ford Explorer bracket, but it's not going to fit inside of the factory ones from the S10. We would have to basically enlarge in these holes or make an oval, you know what I'm saying? I have to re-drill them. I kind of like the ones from the Explorer better, and I'll tell you why, is that hole right in the center. We've talked about this in another video, but it has that little center locator right there. So this nut that hangs down, I've already sat it up there. That fits perfectly inside of that hole. So it kind of locates this thing right in the center as well, which I really like that. The S10 ones do not have that. It is just simply humped up right here to clear it. It doesn't necessarily locate it. It doesn't center it, you know what I'm saying? So I really like that about these brackets, but the only problem is, if you look at it, is how the shock mounts up. So the S10s have this stud that sticks out where these ones do not. It has this big ass bracket right here. I could just simply, instead of having that stud that the shock actually slides onto, I could just simply put this in there and run a bolt through it. The only other issue, if you look at the shock placement, so you see on the S10, the shock mounts right there, where on the Explorer, it is a little bit further back and kind of at an angle. So I don't know if that's gonna do some kind of like weird bind. But for the most part, I think it should be fine. If we do run into a problem, then I'll have to figure something out. All right, so yeah, I was definitely just overthinking this way too much, bro. That is gonna work out freaking perfect. I'm actually stoked on how this came out. So the shock is still straight up and down. It didn't, I was also worried that it might put it at like a weird angle or something, but no, it's straight up and down. The only issue is, so the bracket is a little thick right here, and it does hit the body of the shock, you know what I'm saying? So I just need to kind of grind that down a little bit to give myself a little bit more clearance. But other than that, it also rubs on this little plastic protected piece, the cover that goes over the gas tank. It rubs right there, so I'll need to clearance that a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and pop that back off. I need to grind that and clearance it a little bit, and then we need to clearance this cover over the gas tank a little bit. Got the rest of that airline out of there. Well, I got my brackets all bolted up on there last night. I was actually happy, dude. Had this like sense of accomplishment, right? We're just making steps forward. But now I come out here this morning and I'm looking at it and it's not right, bro. It just isn't. So I know that we're not on like a fabrication rack or a frame rack or whatever it is you'd call it, but I kind of somewhat leveled the Blazer. Like, it's not perfect, but you know, just to get like a rough estimate as to whether this thing is sitting straight or not. So there's absolutely nothing sitting on the suspension. So the suspension, the leaf springs are supporting 0 of the weight. But I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to pick this up, because obviously the camera is the lens isn't showing you guys exactly how it is that I'm seeing it in person. But if you look dead on with this shock, it looks like it is straight up and down. Where if you look on like dead on with this shock, it looks like the bottom is further left and the top is right. So it looks like it's sitting crooked like this, you know? And again, you get underneath here using the level. So with this on the side of the shock housing, that is the left side. And that is the right side, the passenger side. So as you can see, it's definitely leaning where the driver's side one isn't. And I don't know, man, putting a level aside, like don't even like pay any attention to the level. Physically looking at it, like a little bit more up close, it doesn't look symmetrical, you know what I'm saying? The passenger side looks like it's leaning a little bit more, and maybe it's a little further in, where the driver's side looks like it's damn near straight up and down, but it's also a little further back. But then I get way back here and it looks a little bit more symmetrical. I don't freaking know, dude. Now if this was something that I just plan on just driving, it's just a driver to go to car shows and, you know, mob around on the street or whatever, I wouldn't be worried about it. But the thing is I'm trying to build this up to the point to where like I can get into like the small tire class or do no prep racing and stuff with it at some point. I know it's really important for your chassis to be dialed. You know, you want everything centered, you want things straight. Shock placement, I feel like it's probably really important for it to be symmetrical, because who knows how that might affect the chassis. If one shock is like sideways and a little further back from the center point of the axle than the other, you know what I'm saying? So I want to do this right the first time. I could just send it and say, screw it, I've got them on there and whatever, but it just doesn't feel right, and it's been screwing with me, dude. I've been staring at, you guys wouldn't know, but I've been staring at this for like over an hour now, just walking around it in circles with a tape measure and a damn level, bro. Another thing that I don't particularly like is if you get on straight on with this shock, you see how it sits sideways inside of there? I know that is going to prematurely wear out my damn bushing. So either way you look at it, that's just not gonna work, man. We gotta get those off there. Back to the drawing board. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, happy damn. I think we've been here before. You guys getting a case of deja vu. So am I, believe me. And I already know that whenever I'm editing this, I'm gonna struggle to just cut that whole first portion out because it didn't work and say, screw it, move on to the portion that does work. But trials and turbulations, man. We gotta figure this shit out. I'm sharing with you guys my process in figuring it out. So, just, you know, in case you guys are trying to decide what bracket it is you need to use. You know the reason why we didn't go with the 8/8 bracket? Because it's made by Ford. It don't work. And just so you know, I grinded the Ford logo off of that rear end, so it's no longer Ford. Don't come for me. Anyhow, I'm leaning more towards actually using the S10 brackets now because it has a nice stout mounting point, factory mounting point for the damn shock. So we don't have to do anything custom there. Really, the only thing that we have to do is make new holes, you know? That's it. Alright, so now with this all laid out on paper, I can just simply, so these outside holes, those are the holes that we're going to have to drill. Those are for the 8/8. These inside holes are the holes that are already in our S10 brackets. So now I can go ahead and line the S10 holes up with the S10 bracket and then use a center punch and make myself a nice little center punch where the holes are that we need to drill. And we will have it evenly marked, and it's easy to replicate it left to right to make sure that we have this symmetrical. So I ended up getting these things marked. Look at where our center spot is in relation to the holes that are already on there, bro. It's right on the freaking edge. So it was a lot easier to actually use a silver Sharpie to mark it rather than trying to punch the holes. All right, there's my setup, man. So you might be thinking to yourself, why didn't you just do this in the first place instead of doing all the damn measuring and making templates and shit? But with that center hole there, we're able to line this up and make sure that we are in the center, you know what I'm saying? But I got the two clamped together, so basically the Ford Explorer bracket is going to act as a drill guide. So I'm gonna try to get a pilot hole in there, but for the most part, we're just gonna be mowing through this son bitch with a freaking unibit, and I got a couple of them here, because I don't remember which one is sharp and which one isn't, but I need to get the WD-40 out. Ugh. Oh my God. That was bad. That was bad. That's your drill on low, they say. Yeah, let's not do that. Luckily, I got the two brackets clamped together. This right here is just simply holding it up away from the table, so I got some room to drill, you know what I'm saying? Alright, holes are all freaking drilled, baby. I'm surprised we got through that. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and flip it over. We gotta hit it from the back.
I said what I said.
With the unibit, just to kind of clean it up, while we still have that on the front as a drill guide, just to, you know, for good measure. Hit it from the back for good measure. New setup. So if you use enough 11Rs, you can actually use the clamps themselves to support this thing off of your work area, so you don't drill holes into your workbench. Instead of that whole fiasco I had going on, this is gonna be a lot more stable. God dang there, buddy, that shit came out really nice. I almost made a huge mistake running those Explorer brackets, because this is what I want. Dude, you can tell that the shock is just so much happier now, just being straight. It's not putting that weird bind, that tension on the bottom of it. They're completely symmetrical now. They're straight up and down, and they're at the same angle from left to right, you know what I mean? All the way around, 100% a much better move using the S10 brackets. And all we had to do was just oversize the holes, basically. Another reason I'm happy that we went this route is because with those Explorer brackets on here, the way the shock was in that bind, it made the shock really hard to detach from the bracket because it was in there sideways. With the factory bracket, it's as simple as you just pop that one nut off of there, slide the shock out, and you're disconnected. And the reason why that's important is these competition engineering shocks right here from Moroso, they do have 3 settings, but in order to cycle through the settings, you actually have to compress the shock all the way up, which is really hard because these things are stiff, boy. I got it on the stiffest setting right now, but you have to compress the shock all the way up, and then you turn it, and there's clicks, but you have to have it in the all the way up position in order to do that. So if you're out at the track, or you know, out in Mexico or something on some side roads, it's going to be a lot easier to cycle through settings if you need to on the side of the road, just by pulling this one nut off. You're freaking done. These shocks are really actually pretty dope for the guy that's on a budget, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna go ahead and share the part numbers with you. This is the rear that we already have installed. This is obviously for the S10. That would be for the truck or for the Blazer. And these right here are actually for the front. So whenever it comes to adjusting between the settings on the front, that's going to be a lot more difficult trying to do that on the side of the road, if you guys know how the front suspension is set up on the S10. You don't have the little knob that you can just simply turn. But of course, that's the difference from about $70 per corner versus like $250 per corner, you know what I mean? You still have a nice affordable option for us budget guys. But yeah, I am most certainly satisfied with how that came out. But now I need to actually pull those off of there. I gotta get them sandblasted, and I gotta get to fabricating, doing some templates and stuff, and figuring out exactly how it is I want to fabricate my traction bar. Because yes, up next we are going to be fabricating a traction bar for this, because that is huge, and that is going to play a very big role in this thing actually getting traction. You know what I'm saying? Getting rid of the damn wheel hop. And this right here is everything that we are going to be needing to make ourselves basically a CalTrack clone set of bars. But we're going to be doing that in the next video. I most certainly hope to see you guys there. I hope you enjoyed this one. Peace, and I'll see you then.
How neat is that? Good, great. Grand, wonderful.